Right, now you must be taking the piss. Good, right. Okay, cool. Hi everybody, welcome to EdinburghJS. I'm Jamie, I'm the host and organizer. So tonight, obviously, we had one speaker build, Sara, who's going to do a talk on emulators in JavaScript. She unfortunately had to cancel at the last minute. She is rescheduling, so she'll be up at the June meetup instead of tonight. So, keep an eye on the Luma and the meetup group for details about that. So thank you very much to the speakers tonight who, at the last minute messages from me, panicking, worrying about speakers, agreed to do some lightning talks. So hopefully, beer, pizza, good JavaScript talks. It'll be a lovely night anyway. Just a few things. Thanks to Perk for hosting us. There's a QR code up there. If you're interested in getting jobs and opportunities, Perk are recruiting at the moment, and we're going to hear from someone from Perk later on. So check that out. And also check out the Scottish Technology Club banner at the front door, because that has a weekly email bulletin that I write with events and kind of content from the community in it. So the first talk tonight is from Manu, and it's going to be on Playwright.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Welcome, everyone. Very happy to be back on stage for the third time, I think, at EdinburghJS. It was not expected. I said yes to Jamie yesterday evening. And I will give a quick talk about Playwright. How many of you have already used Playwright before? Oh, quite a lot of people. Okay. So, for the people that doesn't know Playwright yet, it's an interesting talk. Playwright is one of the tools we can use to make UI tests or end-to-end tests. We have many tools around the ecosystem. We have Selenium, we have Cypress, we have Playwright from Microsoft. And this is the one I want to present to you tonight. If you have some experience with Cypress, you will see that the syntax in Playwright is quite easy to understand because the asynchronous way of writing code is using only the async await keyword we have in JavaScript. If we compare with the Cypress domain-specific language, it's more easy to read and to learn, in my own opinion. So let's say, I didn't present myself, I'm Emmanuel Demey. You can follow me on LinkedIn if you want. As I didn't have a lot of time to prepare my talk, let's say we want to test one of my websites for the conference organized in France. It's a basic static website using Astro. We can write Playwright test with any technology. We don't care about that. So we don't have any Playwright yet. Let's init Playwright, run Playwright, generate code with Playwright. And as we are in 2026, I have to talk about AI. So let's init agents for Playwright. I only have one hand to write code, so let's see if it will be okay. So I don't have any Playwright yet. I have some stuff in cache because with the network I installed some stuff during the afternoon, but let's init Playwright on my project. So this command will install the libraries, install the browser, configure the Playwright with the playwright.config.ts file, and just with that, we are about to write our first UI test. So my test will be on the test folders. If I want, I can run my Playwright test on GitHub Action. It will generate a GitHub Action file for me. I can ask to install the browser that we'll use to run my UI test. And once this is done, it will generate a config file. This is where we have to configure Playwright. We have a lot of configuration we can do in Playwright. One of the most interesting one is the project array. In the project array, we can define on which kind of browser we want to run our test. This is quite simple. Here we just run on Chromium, Firefox, and Safari, I think, yeah, WebKit. But we can add some capabilities on this browser. We can say we want to use a smaller viewport. We can enable low connection. We can force the geolocalization. We can define some capabilities, and all my test suites will be executed on each project. Once this is done, Playwright has generated a very simple test based on the playwright.dev website. As you can see, the syntax is quite similar to vtest or jest or any other testing frameworks, we have the test keyword, async, await, and so on. And as you can see, we visit a page, we check that the title of the page is containing playwright, and here we have another action. We emulate the click of a user on a specific element in my page, and then we assert that the new page contains a specific keyword. So, as you can see, the syntax is quite easy to understand. It's quite linear. We have async await. We use utility method to fetch element with the getByRole method. We have the same kind of method in other testing framework like testing library and so on. So we are quite familiar with that. So let's run our test first. We have two modes for running playwrights on the terminal and with the UI window. And as you can see here, we have two tests and running 3 times because we have 3 browsers that has been configured, and we can see that all these tests passed successfully. And if I run the UI mode, because when we are developing something, we want to have a user interface to see if my test is okay or not, we have the UI flag that will run this kind of window. I don't know what is behind this tool, maybe Electron or something like that. But and I can run all the test suites, one suite. We will have the timeline with all that's going on the page, and I will have a screenshot on the right side of the page with the state of my page at this time of my test. If I update my test, I hope I save. Yeah. You will see that my assertion will be slower to be finished because there is a mechanism in Playwright that it will test multiple times until a timeout is done to see if my element is visible or not. So as you can see, if my test is in error, and you can see the assertion message in this window. But if we are in the CI/CD on GitHub or something like that, and we want to run my test, and one test failed, but I don't know why, and I cannot reproduce this error locally on the machine. How can I reproduce this problem? In Cypress, we can, for example, enable some feature like video. And for all tests, we have many behavior for this parameter, but here with the on value for all tests, Playwright will generate a WebM video that we can download and run locally and see why my test doesn't work. So if we have a look, here we have a report in HTML, and if we click on one test in error, as you can see, we have the recording right here. So quite easy to see what the problem comes from. Okay, so let's write our first test with for my website. I don't want to write tests manually because I have a mic. So let's generate some tests. With Playwright, we can. Sorry, I have to do something first. I will run this, and in parallel, I will run my CodeGen tool. We have a CodeGen command that we can use to generate tests. In fact, it will run browser on localhost 4321, and this won't work because I forgot something. demo effect. Because by default, my application is not running at all, so it will have a 404 page. I have to run my server first before running my playwright test. So here I say I want to run the npm run dev command and wait for the port 4321. If I make mistake, please tell me. If I run it again, it will run my server first, launch the app. If my test successfully loaded here, that means that my application is fully running. Oh, just take a long time to load. So it's okay. So let's go back on my terminal. Let's run the congen tool on my localhost 4321 and generate a test in my .spec.cs file. It will launch a browser. It will launch two windows, one browser and one code editor. The code editor is behind this. No, it's here. Oh, I cannot show both of them at the same time, but it doesn't matter. So I have my window. I can scroll down. I can say, okay, let's. I want to be able to test that this icon is visible. I want to click on this link. I want to be sure that this title contains this word. I say okay. And when my test is done, I just need to stop the recording, and if I open the code window, my test, oh sorry, it's maybe too small, but my test has been generated. And if I'm going back to my Z editor, my test has been created, and I can see my generated code. Of course, this generated code is not easy to maintain. You have to update this code, use some patterns we have when we write UI tests, like page object pattern and so on, but quite easy to create our first scenario. So if we run that, this one I think, my test is here, I can run it and you receive the same kind of result. My test is running correctly. Okay, last example. Let's say I want to use AI now. As I have only 10 minutes, I already prepared everything this afternoon. We can install an agent with Playwright for Cloud, for OpenAI, for other provider, and it will generate all the Markdown file useful for using Playwright in AI ecosystem. So these three Markdown files are the ones that are here. We have one Markdown file for writing a test plan in Markdown. We have a Markdown file for generating the code, and we have a Markdown file to debug and resolve any issue we have in our test file. So, like in any AI chat we have with Claude and OpenAI, I say, okay, please can you generate some tests for my application. If you run that, Playwright will launch a browser, navigate through all the links in your website, write a Markdown file with the test plan or everything he has to test, and it will generate something like that. This is a file that has been generated by the agent. As you can see, 400 lines of Markdown where Playwright detected what it has to be tested, the different pages that it has discovered, and so on. So when this is done, let's say I want to No. I will ask Claude to generate the test code for the plan he has generated a few hours ago. So he will read the configuration file, he will read other file I already have if he found some pattern objects he can reuse and so on and so on. And when this is done, it can take a while. He will generate something like that. I have some backup just in case. Here he has generated maybe something hard to maintain, but 500 lines of playwright test where he tests everything he has prepared in the plan file. So if you are an AI user, this can be usable or interesting for you. So this is all for my talk. We can talk about a lot of things with playwrights, snapshot testing, visual aggregation, component testing, proxifying your API call. We have a lot of things with playwright, but in 10 minutes it's quite challenging. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we take one or two questions? Does anybody have any questions about Playwright at all? Cool, you good for that? Yeah. Awesome.
Hi. So I'm just wondering whether you can actually test the contents of like an indexed DB.
Yeah. You can in Playwright you can evaluate JavaScript in the context of your website.
Okay. Yeah.
Like in Cypress, in fact, we have some stuff in Cypress.
Cool. Thanks.
Anyone else? I have a question. When you're using Playwright normally, what kind of level do you normally do it where you're navigating through lots of things in your site or web application, or you need to test like varying state, or are you sort of doing component level kind of small chunks?
The latest project where I use Playwright is a wizard page, or we have multiple steps, and we have created the Playwright test to test fully with the wizard from the beginning to the end. So we test every page. And after you can ask yourself, do we mock the API or we use the real API and so on? And in this use case, we have the real API. Before running my test, I call an API to generate mock data that I clean up after the end of my test. So I have a fully end-to-end test with a fully backend API with real data for each of my tests.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Anyone else?
Hi, yeah. When you're running these tests, if it's triggered via GitHub Actions, it's more or less binary, whether it passes or fails. Is it possible to integrate it with a monitoring tool, a test suite, which lets you know if the website loads slower than possible?
You can, yeah. You
Like say Grafana or similar kind of integrations?
No, not by default, but I think you can plug into the hook in Playwright and call any kind of API to save some data in any backend. I did that a long time ago, but it was not for performance. It was for measuring the impact on the environment for your website. So on every page, I fetch some data in my website, and I send this data to a back office, and I save this data in the database and so on. But I have to plug into the Playwright hooks system in order to fetch the data and send them to somebody. But by default, we have nothing for that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Cool. Round of applause. Thank you, Manu. Cheers. Just get sound. Same laptoping. Need to update your branding.
I know. I realised that after the slides say internal on them as well, so that's good.
Cool. So next up, Paddy is going to talk about CSS at Perk, not just Travel Perk.
Yeah. So it's about getting rid of style components. So anyway, I'll start. I don't know how. Yeah, I'll go. All right, there we go. Yeah, start a little bit about me. I'm Paddy O'Neill. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. I guess I'm kind of like, I didn't just go straight into software development, so I like to hear people's journeys. So I used to work on oil rigs, and then I was a furniture maker. And then in 2020, I went to Code Clan. And then I worked elsewhere, and then I've been working at Perk for 2 years. And most of that time, I've been working on the component library that we have here called Suitcase. So how did this all start? And it's quite funny, actually. Exactly 1 year ago today, this tweet was made that basically style components was entering maintenance mode. I hadn't really loved style components for a while, so it was like a good like lit the fire to kind of like let's start looking at alternatives. It's maintenance node, so it's not being abandoned. It's still being maintained, but it's a strong signal. It should probably start looking at alternatives. We had some problems. We were a major version behind, so we were blocked on some newer CSS syntax like container queries, starting style, all the nice stuff that ideally you want to be able to use. So I guess when you're replacing something, you got to work out what it did for you in the first place. So one of the main things was like naming collisions. So everyone's got containers and wrappers and hundreds of them. So that helped, style components helped with that and scope in the CSS. And I guess the main superpower was it allowed us to use our JavaScript variables to set properties in our CSS. So there we go. Why was it chosen in the first place? I don't actually know, I wasn't here, but I presume it's because it is the de facto solution at the time, basically, because of the above reasons. Has anything changed since then? It was 2016, so yes. CSS has changed a lot. Around that time, CSS variables had just kind of landed in browsers, but they weren't in. This was back in the days where people were still supporting Internet Explorer, so obviously they couldn't use that. And then what else has changed? There's been a general shift away from runtime CSS towards kind of like static CSS and like build time CSS. Basically, mostly for performance reasons, so that we're not constantly adding and removing style tags to the head of the document on every render. Just unnecessary work we don't really need to do. So what were the alternatives? Tailwind, everyone knows. Emotion is very similar. I think that might be runtime. Panda CSS was that's a build time one, and then vanilla extract and CSS modules. So the winner was CSS modules. I guess you want to know why. But let's start with what are CSS modules. They're basically just CSS files, but with a naming convention. So it's .module.css, and we can then import that into our JavaScript files, and our bundler will do a little bit of magic and basically hashes the class name, gets away from our wrapper container naming problem because everything's hashed, so we get away from that. Yeah, that's about it. Right. Oh, and here's a, I don't know if you can read this, a code example, but yeah, basically like we're kind of importing the .module.css, and then that gives us a JavaScript object, and then we just do like styles dot the class name and apply it to the thing, and then in the DOM you get this ugly hashed class name, and that's it. Why did we choose them? I guess that's the interesting bit. I guess like since style components came out, CSS has evolved a lot, and there's a lot of things that basically mean we don't really need style components anymore. because the things that they did, well, the naming's covered by the CSS modules, but the dynamic things we can kind of do with CSS and CSS variables now. Any of the other options I kind of mentioned would be move into like another syntax or another like domain specific language. One of the good things about style components was most of the syntax is just CSS, so it was actually quite easy to move from style components to CSS. Also, like being popular now doesn't mean it'll be around for a long time. Obviously, Tailwind's hugely popular, but who knows? Nobody can predict the future, what goes popular and not. I kind of want to stay close to the web platform, not rely on external dependencies. At the moment at Perk, we're upgrading to React 19, and it's painful because we've got so many dependencies that we have to update. So anything that you can avoid having a dependency on and stick to the web is good in my opinion. Yeah. And then I think one of the other things is that, yeah, about the domain-specific like language is the engineers at Perk are already used to basically writing CSS in style components, so it's actually not that big of a change to just write CSS. And I guess it's also not always a case of just choosing the best technology. It's about choosing the right one for the constraints either like you or your company have. So our CSS modules approach have one class per element, because we just pass one base class. I guess traditionally we'd have done CSS by passing multiple classes, toggling them with JavaScript. Again, to make that nice now, we'd have to bring in another dependency. They're quite small, but CLSX, like that kind of thing. If you don't need it, why bring it in? So we just pass one base class, and then we modify things via either ARIA or data attributes. So we can pass along our booleans, and then we can target these data attributes in our CSS to like toggle the styles relevantly. So we can pass booleans, or we can pass like string unions, and just again target these in the CSS. I've called these like unbounded values, I guess, for like passing widths and stuff. You can set a style tag, and we do that through we've got like a naming convention where we do -- prop, and the reason for that is that so we grab that value in the CSS, and all the CSS is in the CSS file. It's not split over a JavaScript file and a CSS file. It's all co-located. It's all in one place. There should be no mysteries when you're trying to debug it. I do say it's a bit of a code smell here. If you're trying to pass the width, could you maybe just offer a range of sizes and things like that as well? So I don't know how well people can read, but here's an example where we're passing in some data attributes, and then you see we've got the one base class at the top. So we've got our base styles. I guess apologies to the people at the back. You can pass some binoculars around. And then, yeah, basically using CSS nesting, like a new CSS feature, but I think you can use it anyway because the compilers will compile that out. So we've got everything inside, and then we just got the nesting to like toggle different values based on the data we're passing in from our JavaScript. I also think it's quite nice to, when you are looking at the DOM in the Elements tab, it's quite nice to see the different data attributes and their values. It can you can almost like debug without, for example, having to go into the React Dev Tools. You can see the state of your component, and then it'll also tell you which styles are applying because of that. Yeah, so I guess like my main thing is like kind of like trying to stick to the web platform when you can. So like other things we've done recently is we've moved away from Moment to the new temporal API, which people should do. That's available by a polyfill, so there's no reason to worry about browser support or anything. We've also moved our modals to like the new dialogue element. Again, that just eliminates a whole swathe of JavaScript, kind of focus handling, all that kind of stuff. And then we had a library called React Transition Group, which kind of managed toggling the classes when you were like animating stuff into the DOM, and that's been replaced by CSS modules and starting style. So yeah, I guess that's about the gist of it. Stay close to the web platform if you can.
Thank you very much. How difficult was it to do this? I mean, how long did it take you to plan and check you weren't breaking anything? Or was it a clause, just go do this job?
I did the changes, but then we've got so many pages. It's obviously like, and I don't know about half the pages because we've got so many vertical teams. So it's impractical for me to check them all. So it was basically a case of I'd do the code changes and then ask the teams to go and check, and they'd report back with anything. But surprisingly little. But quite a bit of cursor as well until I ran out of credits.
Fair enough. Does anybody have any questions about transition? Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Paddy. My question is about any components or things that resisted being moved closer to web standards, as it were. Was there anything that was like the odd one out that was a pain?
Not really. I think it's all covered. Like kind of, we've got that truly dynamic aspect by just passing in a style tag. So you've got that covered there, and then yeah, the other things can just be toggled by a data attribute. So there wasn't really anything that couldn't be done. No. I think the text just moved on. So
cool. Anyone else?
I kind of wanted to ask about how you manage reusable maybe utility classes with CSS modules, because I think every project has these classes like padding top 4 pixels or something, and you don't usually want to repeat them over all components. So do you manage them somehow with CSS modules or?
No, we don't have utility classes. My worry is that you invent your own tailwind, basically, which we kind of want to stay away from. So, and if you're doing that, you may as well use tailwind. So no, but we have CSS variables because we have a design system. So we have design tokens. So we have like -- spacing, LG kind of, for example, and that's how we'd keep consistency on our spacings. And that's what the designers use in Figma. So that's when an engineer is making the component, they know they've got to use that token.
Yeah, I guess generally maybe you have some shared classes.
No.
Okay. Yeah. No questions then.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much. So we will take a 5-minute break, grab another slice of pizza, another drink, and then in 5 minutes we'll be back to hear from Daniel. So yeah, cheers everybody. Who got a message from me on several platforms yesterday. They're like, can you do a talk? Are you still doing a talk somewhere else? So fresh from the stage in, was it Amsterdam you're in? Daniel, who's going to be talking about npm-x. Cheers.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. I was really looking forward to seeing Sarah, so I'm so sorry that you're stuck with me. The other two talks are great though. I'm going to talk about building npm-x, and if you don't immediately know what that is, don't worry, I'll tell you. But first, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Rowe, as Jamie said. I'm a full-time open source maintainer, which is honestly the best job in the world. I'm employed by Vercel, which is a cloud deployment provider. But my actual role is to lead the team building Nuxt, which is a framework for building full-stack web applications, built with Vue on the front end, Nitro on the back end. And I built a few other projects too, and maintain a few other projects too. Some of the links are there on my slides. I should just say my website is row.dev. If you want to drop me a line, for whatever reason, ask a question. I know this isn't a terribly long talk, so if you do have a burning question, we don't get a chance to talk about it, please do get in contact. I'm on all the social media sites except for Twitter for obvious reasons. And I'm a Google developer expert, a Microsoft MVP, GitHub star. And I live in Edinburgh, obviously. This QR code, if you want to send emojis during my talk, I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can. It's available to you, or you can just go to row.dev/live and you can go wild. I only just want to say, with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, it's working. It's always good when the network is live. Amazing. Now, I've given you a few positive emojis, but don't feel held back. I mean, you can absolutely go crazy with negative ones too. So. What is NPM? This may be something that you absolutely know the answer to. It is a package registry, but I'll just show you. So this is in my slides, but it's also running on disk. I honestly think that's quite cool, right? It was a terrible security risk when I first built it, because I have a WebSocket server running on my computer, proxying access to my shell. Any security folk want to realize that basically that means anyone who can connect to that server can run anything on my computer at all. Bad. It doesn't do that anymore. It listens only on a private internal port. So NPM is a CLI that you've probably encountered. It is one of the ways you get access to the NPM registry, which is a registry of packages for the Node ecosystem. So you can install a package like this. It produces a lock file. There are even other package managers like PNPM or Yarn, which use the same underlying registry. And it's a way of distributing code so that I can use somebody else's code on my machine. And I don't have to reinvent everything all the time. Although in a new age of AI, I guess we're all inventing everything all the time anyway. You've probably used it. In fact, would you raise your hand if you've used NPM? Yes. So I'll spend some more time explaining exactly how the thing you use all the time works. I won't do that. npmjs.com, who here has used this? Some of you. It is a website that is an interface to the NPM registry. You can browse packages, you can see their descriptions, you can see how many downloads there are, what the latest version is. There's various things you can do on the npm.js website. But it hasn't changed a lot since 2019. And you will immediately spot one of the worst things about it. Yes, it has no dark mode. Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the worst things about it. Now, I couldn't sleep one night, and I naturally opened up my company Slack. I'm sure that's what you do too when you can't sleep. And there was a comment from someone saying, why does no one make a fast alternative to npmjs.com? I mentioned I maintain a framework for building full-stack web apps. And I had actually been looking for something that would be a good example of building something that's really fast with Nuxt. And so this question got stuck in my head, and I thought, huh, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? That was in my head. I couldn't get back to sleep. I kept on thinking about it. And the next morning, I asked this question on Blue Sky. I would love to know people's frustrations with the current npm.js website and admin user flows on it. And I got lots and lots of responses and lots of feedback. And I actually, yeah, there we go. So actually, the first one is this, and then the next one was, I'm asking because I'm building, this is later that day, I'm building an alternative to npmjs.com, including the admin UI piece. And I've got to say, by this point, I had a working MVP at 5 that evening. And I teased it, and people started messaging me and saying, hey, I would love to help out. And then more people said, hey, I would love to help out. And then I messaged a friend, and we created a Discord server, and crazy experience. So this is our basic timeline. So the idea starts on the 22nd of January. The next day, I ping people, 49 PRs in the next 24 hours, 1,000 issues and PRs by the next just 2 weeks, I guess. And I think someone calculated out that was 1 PR merged every 20 minutes without time for sleeping. So a huge amount of, and then 1,500 stars a couple of days later. By this point, we have over 105 contributors. And then we did what you would naturally expect. We took a week off. Because whenever you have something which really seems to be taking off, a really good thing to just leave it, right? But actually, we thought that the whole thing, the whole experience was so fun. And we thought we want this to be something that's sustainable. So we don't just want to be this. Honestly, we weren't sleeping. I wasn't sleeping. I was going to bed at 2 in the morning, and so was everyone else on the project. We were up at all hours building this thing. And so we took a week off, and we actually hit 2,000 stars while we were on holiday, naturally, and hit Hacker News as well while we were on holiday, which is a bit crazy. And we released the alpha on the 3rd of March. This was my GitHub contribution graph. Those were the days leading up to the release. 2,188 contributions in those 38 days. It was mad. And these are the people who helped build npmX. So over 229 by now. And people from all over the world. These are the languages, because we decided to localize it into different languages. And so by and this is live, this is per day, you see what's changing and how people are updating the languages. So the site could be localized. So 21 now. And yes, we went on holiday. And we touched grass, and we locked Discord channels. We didn't merge a single commit, and did lots and lots of other things. Came back and launched it. We had over 27 blog posts from different people for the day of the launch, talking about what it was, from accessibility to community to other things. I have a few thoughts as to why this went well. And the first thing is true for many kinds of developer technology, whether that's something like Nuxt or Node, or almost anything that you might build with JavaScript. And that is that we have what I like to think of as a virtuous circle. So we have the possibility of people feeling the pain of the tools they're using, contributing and changing those tools. And this is only possible when you have something that is open source, where it is possible simply to reach out and make a fix. So imagine for a moment that npmjs.com were open source, and I'm sitting there quietly fuming that it's not dark mode compatible. I could just fix that. I could just write some CSS or styled component, or no, not a styled component. I could just fix it, right? I could open a pull request and say, hey, what do you think about this? And you know, that would mean that the project would get better and that more people would get involved, and the circle would continue, right? And this is, I think, one reason why in the JavaScript ecosystem we are so fortunate. We live in a world where every single one of us can make the tools we use on a daily basis better and thereby make our own life better. That is incredible when you think about it. In plenty of ecosystems, the IDEs are closed source. Not for us, not for the most part. In plenty of ecosystems, the tools that are the build tools we use are written in a different language. Not for us. They're written in JavaScript. Every single one of us can figure out how to make our lives better. And the second reason I think we accelerated so much is because of the 10x developer. Actually, the myth of the 10x developer. Actually, because we didn't try and be 10x developers, to be very, very clear. Who here has heard of vNext? Okay, I'm not putting it on blast or trying to say anything negative about the developer who built it. It's a clone of Next.js. Next.js is a full stack framework for React, very similar to Nuxt, as the name might indicate. And it was cloned by a developer working for Cloudflare. And it's a very cool feat of engineering. One person and their agents built it, and they've put it up. And then there's been some back and forth between Vercel and Cloudflare over are there security vulnerabilities or not, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason I mention it isn't to attack the framework, but just to say this is a pattern of the 10x developer. You've heard of the 10x developer? The idea that it came from a study years and years ago, like over 20 years ago, in which different developers were interviewed on teams. And the most productive were 10 times more productive than the average. And for whatever reason, that number has stuck with us in the developer community. And we have this idea that there are people who are just insanely productive. And they literally do exist. I mean, there are people who, and AI is going to make that even more pronounced, where you have some people creating huge quantities of code, or creating lots of different projects at the same time. And so we have this idea and this desire either to be a 10x developer or to respect and admire people who are 10x developers, who produce and contribute insane quantities of things. But I think it is totally bonkers. I don't think 10x developers are something we should aspire to be. Obviously, we should aspire to be more productive and better at what we do, of course. But actually, research shows that you achieve better results not when one person seeks perfection, but when you have a team iterating to greatness. That is actually what success looks like. It might feel less impressive because every step along the way is smaller, but you get somewhere that's much better. I really hope you'll go and read some of the blog posts that people put out for the launch of npm-X, because people are sharing their stories of never having contributed to open source, seeing an opportunity, getting involved, making a PR, and realizing something important about themselves, that they have the power, that they are able, or posts talking about the community and the power of being given, well, not having to be given permission, of just knowing that you can just do something if you want without someone actually assigning the issue to you. A breath of fresh air in a world where we might be governed by JIRA tickets. We need 10x teams, not 10x developers. And I think that's been some of the most fun bits of npm-X, that it's not a me project. I could have had it be a me project and it would have been probably much less successful, and I would have gotten much more credit. But honestly, it's much more fun to build things with friends, to build things in communities and groups that are brought together by something that we care about, to have fun while building it, not just focus on the amount of output at the end of the day. I think we, by the way, need to change our objectives. Like, what are your KPIs? What are the things you're measured by? Like, I think businesses need to not measure lines of code anymore at all. It's super easy to create code. anyone can create code. Anyone's agent can create code. That doesn't matter. But npmx is a totally different piece. Oh yeah, so it does lots of stuff today. If you're interested in the specifics of it, I will oblige you. I know no one has actually asked me for this, but where's my mouse? Somewhere. I actually cannot see my mouse at all. So I'm either blind.
It's in the screen that you're showing.
Oh, interesting. That's weird. Great. This is npmx. It's a website. You can type. You get fast results. We either pull it. It disappears. We can either pull it from npm or Algolia. Algolia is really fast and really nice. The whole experience is a lot better, I think. But it also surfaces information that developers might like to know. So in this case, for example, Nuxt has a vulnerability not with Nuxt itself, but actually in one of our sub-dependencies. So you can actually see that. You can have a look down and see where it's coming from. Dive directly in to have a look at the vulnerability itself if you want. You get commands like the create command being surfaced. You can see the total install size, not just the install size of the package itself, but of all of its dependencies. You can compare it with other packages, for example. We might want to compare it with Next, the React framework. And you can have a look at some of the different metrics that you might want to see. Some lovely little graphs that'll show you different features. You can obviously pick dark mode, but you can have light mode if you really, really want. You can, I don't know, there are lots and lots of things that you can do. Obviously, it's nice that you can browse it in your own language if you're not a native English speaker. And you can, what else can you do? You can do stuff like browse code. So you can just have a look at the code of the projects you're using. You can actually see documentation that's generated from the JS docs of those same packages. If you're looking at an older version, say here, you can look at the code diff and see actually what changed well, that's a bit big, I guess. You can see what changed between the two different versions of the package. Anyway, there's lots and lots of stuff, but what matters isn't the specific feature set, but the fact that what it does, what npmx stands for, is giving people the power to make their own experience in one tiny area of life as a developer better, and doing it for fun with other people who are part of a community. And it is honestly so much fun. If you want to get involved, you would be very, very, very welcome to do so. If you want to, you can come and have a look at the Git repository. We have, it's open, there's lots of issues that you'd be welcome to dive into. And do feel free to use it as well, if that's something that you would like. Finally, let's see if I can find my slides. We have some nice things coming. So some of the features that you might want to tackle. But one of the things we want to do is build a single place where developers can find everything that's relevant. So package releases, other people who contribute to packages, maybe even developer events like this one could show up on it too. Because it has, and I haven't shown you this, social features. You can like packages, and you can actually see what other people like. And there's going to be a lot of further work on that. So yeah, if you want to, try it out. Follow us on Blue Sky, or you can join our Discord server as well if you're interested. And I should say I have an open diary at ro.dev/chat. If you want to talk about getting involved in open source or npmx or Nuxt or anything else, I'm always happy to talk. It has been a real pleasure to chat, and I hope I haven't kept you too long, but it has been a real delight. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Daniel? We'll start around here and then move around.
Sure.
Yeah, my question is, I assume that since you started doing, like leading the Nuxt project, you haven't had the opportunity to do much like open source in smaller projects, or maybe you have, but if that's the case, like how was the experience now going back to like building something from the very beginning?
So I do get involved in other projects too, but I think there's something very different with building a product or a site as opposed to building like a library or a build tool. Because you have a chance to use, in this case, you know, we're using Nuxt, we're using other stuff that I've built. And I think the best tooling comes from people who are experiencing what it's like to use it, because you see what the friction is. So I'm glad to be able to do it with NPMX. There are some other things I've launched. I built a game. If anyone enjoys the New York Times spelling bee, I built a clone. Don't tell New York Times spelling bee. But it's free, it works offline. That was my main problem. I wanted to play it on the plane, so I built that. That's fun. Pengram.com. And then there's some other things too. But I absolutely, it's life-giving. The time when I was closest to quit open source entirely, I felt like I had very little control over my work. And the thing that got me at that point sort of full of fire again was building something called Elk, which is a client for Mastodon, basically like Twitter, but decentralized. And that was a huge positive thing. A friend of mine, Anthony Fu, created this project, invited me to get involved, and I did, and it was same kind of feeling. The community, building stuff, not having to ask permission for things, just ship it. And there's something amazing about that.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hey, great talk. So I guess as someone that you're running like very popular open source projects, and now with the AI on the rise, I guess you get hit with all of these AI slop PRs, you know, and in general people using AI. I wonder, how are you solving that for your projects? Yeah.
So in general, I don't mind what tools people use, as long as they are tools that people are using. Because I don't know about you, but the whole point of open source for me is people. I could code stuff on my own, that's fine. I could instruct an agent to do stuff, and that would be fine too. But the reason things are open, it's like, hey, come over and see what I built. Isn't it cool? Hey, you want to be part of it too? That would be even better. That's great. Put an agent in there, and that becomes much less fun. So you're probably talking about things like a PR is opened. We actually had this. We had lots of these in Nuxt as well. A PR is opened. You sort of spot some problems. You add some comments. They're addressed. And then as you go through the review process, you start realizing that the person on the other end is saying, you're absolutely right, a lot. And that just possibly there isn't a person on the other end. At one point we found that the profile of the GitHub profile had also created a repository that was all about creating an autonomous swarm of agents. And so that was what it was. It was creating PRs. I honestly think right now this is a temporary thing. People are figuring out what agents are and how they work. And every single person is like, oh, I'll tell you what. I'll create an agent that just creates PRs to open source. And in their mind, they're thinking, this would be so useful for maintainers. They'll find it really helpful. I really believe they're well motivated. And we're going to learn, people are going to learn new ways, new etiquettes over time. I think in the same way as we know we have to provide reproductions, if you're filing a bug report, we'll learn you don't create PRs that don't have a person behind them. My own take, don't let an AI or an LLM think for you. If you ever want to contribute to open source, you can use it, but understand what it is you're submitting before you submit it. Really common where people are like, I have no idea if this works or not, but here you go. No, please don't do that. And the second thing, and even more important, is don't let an LLM speak for you. It's really common that we feel inadequate with our own language. We think, I can't explain it as well. I think I should use an LLM, or maybe it's language, maybe it's whatever it is. It would seem more professional, we think. I'll use an LLM. Please, please don't. I want to hear people's real, authentic voice. I don't care about grammar and spelling mistakes. I would rather have one broken sentence expressing what the PR is meant to do than 5 paragraphs of polished rubbish. Because that is honestly what it is. You can't tell what the actual prompt was. You don't know if any of it's true. Honestly, don't let LLM speak for you. Sometimes on social media, I'm browsing through and I'm like, that tweet, pure LLM. From the M dash to the full stop, to the analogy, to the not this, but that. Everything about it. And do you know, it just makes you not trust that person. You feel like there's no connection. Like in the same way as on social media, what we're there for is genuineness. We're there for the same in open source contribution. We want people. We want friends online. And LLMs totally mess with the contract, like the implicit contract that I'm here and you're you, and we're going to try and build something together. So I'm sorry if that was a bit of a rant, but that's what I think.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And just to pick up on that topic, we will be taking a break next month in April, so there will be no EdinburghJS next month. The month after, though, we will have, I think, another AI-related evening. We'll probably have a talk on like AI agents. I am looking for people to do small lightning talks, 5 minutes on something AI JavaScript related, how you're using it, how you're building something with it, what you've built with it, basically anything. As Daniel said, I think people are figuring this stuff out at the moment, and I think there's quite a long way to go and quite a lot of avenues to explore. So I want to make sure that EdinburghJS is kind of on top of that, and we're providing a forum for people to discuss. So that will be in May, and then in June, Sarah, who's supposed to speak tonight, will be coming back again. So thank you very much for turning up tonight. I appreciate everybody spending the evening with us. If you look on the way out, there's the Scottish Technology Club banner. There's a little QR code there. Weekly bulletin every Monday, all the events you want, all the content you want from people who are based in Scotland writing about tech. If you are interested in starting writing about what you're doing online, like blogging, kind of vlogging about stuff, making videos, I might put together a couple of kind of working peer support groups. So maybe it's a lunch and learn, maybe it's a little evening thing. We maybe just get on like Discord or Zoom, show each other what we're doing, and maybe get a little bit of feedback. If you're interested in that, just reach out to me on the Scottish Technology Club Discord server or email or LinkedIn or whatever, and I will try and include you. Hopefully that will happen over the next few weeks, months, whatever. Yeah, just let me know. Right now, I have a table or area booked in the Hanging Bat, so I need some volunteers to go and claim it before they give it away, because it's due in 2 minutes. So if some people want to go and do that, we'll pack up here and hopefully see you at the pub, and if not, see you next time. Cheers.